Hi there, I'm Wendy and welcome to my channel, and today's episode is a podcast style episode, and I'm going to be showing you all the things that I've made over the last few months. I'm also going to be showing you some of the things that are my knitting and crochet work in progress is at the moment, and also some of the things that I'm planning on making over the summer months and later into the year as well. So before we start, I've got a rather snoozy dog on the sofa here behind me who might make a little bit of a noise at some point if he decides to get up and scuttle off into the kitchen. And also it's a beautiful day here in the UK today, and here in the southwest of England the sun is shining, which is wonderful. However, it has its problems, as you can see, and I've got a lot of light and glare coming through. So please excuse if there's some light and shadow differences going on over the next 20 minutes, half an hour as well. You might have also noticed that the last word on my YouTube title name has changed. It's always been Wendy Paul, but I've changed the end bit a little bit a couple of times, and I've just changed it from Wendy Paul Knits to Wendy Paul Handmade, and that's simply because I suddenly realised I must have been in a knitting mode when I called it Wendy Paul Knits, because this channel has got quite a lot of knitting and crochet tutorials and videos. So I thought if I call it Wendy Paul Handmade, it covers everything, and it's that on Instagram and it's that on Facebook as well. So talking about that, you'll also find everything that I've made is on my Instagram, which is, as I said, Wendy Paul Handmade, and also I put everything on Ravelry. So if you're looking for the shade that I've made something in, or some of the finer details perhaps not mentioned on here, you will find it on Ravelry as well. But for now, let's get on with the first thing that I'm going to talk about. So the first thing is the April cardigan, which is the blue cardigan I'm wearing here. Now, when I saw this petite knit design, I just fell in love with it. I loved the colour, I loved the shape of it, I loved what looked like the feel of it. And it'd been on my hit list to make for quite a while. So I bought the yarn for this probably about September last year in 2024. And I bought the yarn from Stitches and Cream in Falmouth, and I used two yarns together, and I've got to look at my notes for this because I can't remember the names of them properly and I can't pronounce them properly, so just excuse me with this. So I used Camerose Oklogist Sommerfeld, I think that is, and that's a 4-ply type weight, and that's a mixture of a wool and cotton, and a beautiful yarn to knit with. And I held that together with Crempe Sol Wool Silky Kid, and that's a silk mohair. And I have to say, it's a really, really luxurious and comfortable cardigan to wear. It's a mixture of wool, cotton, silk and mohair, and it just seems to thermoregulate beautifully, and I haven't noticed any pilling, and it just knitted up beautifully, so I'm really pleased with it. And I'm going to pop some pictures up so that you can see close up the shoulder sections of it, because it's got a really lovely shape and it's knitted top down, so there's no seams, and the saddle, shoulder and the fitted sleeve is really, really nice. And it's quite fitted, but that is what I wanted. I did make it in mind to have it as a summer cardigan that I can wear with dresses. So although I made it at the back end of last year, the plan was to be wearing it for this year. So I would say it's a beautiful cardigan to make, not necessarily a first top-down cardigan to make, because with the saddle shoulders, you've got increasing going along here on the knit rows, and you've also got directional increases on the purl rows as well. So I'm going to put a close-up photo for you to see that. So if you've never done directional decreases on your purl rows, it might be an idea to just have a little practice on that with a sample piece first. But as a cardigan, I love it, and I do intend making it again already. because of the shoulder fit, to be quite honest. And I want to make it in a bigger size because I want to make it in red and have it more as a winter and Christmas cardigan. And so I want to be able to wear that over sort of lightweight jumpers and things like that. Whereas with this one, I just wanted to have it to wear over little summer dresses. But I love everything about it. The only two things that I did slightly differently was I put 5 buttons on it rather than 4. And that was because I'd seen on a couple of YouTube channels, can't remember which ones they were. I think it might have been the Fruitful Hands was saying about using 5 buttons instead of 4. So I decided to go for that. And also, I'm going to be honest, I didn't do an Italian bind off. I just did a normal cast off. I just cast off in rib and it came out fine. And I did that. I did a stretchy cast off on the ribs. So I used my video for a stretchy cast off for that, but I just did an ordinary cast off and I just went down a needle size, I think, to do this, just so that it didn't float, and I just did an ordinary rib cast off. I must also mention the buttons, because I managed to get these buttons at a UK yarn show, and they were from a company. Now she's called Buttons and Things, but her Instagram handle is, I wrote it down because it's slightly differently, so I just checked my notes. It's Buttons Buckles Co on Instagram, and she sells for mail order, and she also goes to some of the shows. But I was amazed that I could just get these in the UK. So that was really such a lucky and a lovely find. So yarn was from Stitches and Cream. Pattern was the Petite Knit. April cardigan, yes, I love it. And my buttons were a real bargain. So I'm really pleased with this, and I know I'll be wearing it a lot. And funnily enough, I seem to have gone through a blue phase, and I'm not normally one that's wearing blue all the time, but last year I seemed to do that. And it tones in perfectly with the next finished object I made, which is my Kynance Cove shawl. So I'm going to take this off my dressmaker's mannequin here so that you can see it. And in actual fact, I'm making another one of it. So I'll be showing you it again in a little while. And this is the lovely Kynance Cove shawl from Comfort Road Knits, and that is the lovely Nikki. And I'm lucky enough to have actually met Nikki, Comfort Road Knits, in real life now, and I know her from an online group that I go to as well. But funnily enough, I hadn't met her before I'd made my shawl. So I made the shawl first and then got to know Nikki. But it's a really, really lovely design to make. And for this one, I used Demelza Delights 4-ply yarn in a colour that she makes sometimes called Cornish tartan. So it's a cream base, but it's got all the colours that you get in traditional Cornish tartan fabric. So I'd bought that actually a few years ago, and I was just waiting for the right pattern. I kept picking the yarn up, looking at it, loving it, and popping it back again. So we weren't going anywhere, we were just going around in circles with this yarn. So when I saw Nikki from Comfort Road Knits had bought out this pattern called Kynance Cove shawl, I just knew that that was what I wanted to use this for, because Kynance Cove is a really beautiful cove down here in Cornwall in the UK. So it felt like the right thing to use this yarn for. So along with that, I'd gone last May to the John Arbon Mills Open Day, which is a traditional style woolen mill in Devon, and they have an open day and they show you how they go through all the processes making their yarns, and you see all the equipment working up close, and it's a fascinating day. So if anyone ever gets the chance to go to that, I would thoroughly recommend it. But when I was there, I bought myself a skein of their John Arbon Naturals, and I have to say I've fallen in love with using their yarn. I just loved knitting with it, and in fact I've bought some more yarn from them now to make socks, but that is another story, and I think I covered that in my last video as well. So I had the Cornish tartan from Demelza Delights, and I had the John Arbon Naturals in the cream, and then just by chance I had some Cascade Heritage 4-ply with it in a blue that just toned in with everything. So that is what I used to make my first Kynance Cave shawl, and I just love the way that the waves form in the ripple. So the story with this was I loved it so much that I kept looking at the original version of it on the front of the pattern, and I liked that so much that I had that as a Christmas present, so I could use it as a Twixmas cast on. So I'm nearly finished that, and I'm going to show you that in a little while as well. So that is my 2 garments, and then after that I made the Knitting for Olive snow sweater, but I'm not going to cover that because I covered that in a whole episode just of its own about some modifications that I made to my version of it. But I do love my sweater, but the only thing that I would say after making a Christmas themed sweater is that you only get to wear it a couple of times a year. I'm only going to be wearing that in December, and as soon as Christmas Day was gone, then if I'm honest, I didn't really want to wear it. I wasn't reaching for it even over the Christmas period and the New Year. So I think what I'm going to do next year is, if I've got time, to make a red version of this in a slightly bigger size, so I've got a festive feeling red jumper. And I've also got the pattern for the Stephen West, it was his Christmas knit along. Was it the Glow Frost? I'll write the name of it below. I've got the yarn, and I've also got 2 more yarns. I'll pop a photo of them up here so you can see them, of Demelza Delights, which is where I got the Cornish tartan from. I've got 2 skeins of her yarn. One's called Traditional Christmas and the other one's called Pinkmas. So I've got those 2 as my main colours, with some reds and some greens to go in it. And I thought I'd rather have a Christmas type shawl with a red jumper or cardigan, because I'm going to be able to use the shawl all the time and I'm going to get more use out of the cardigan. So I think actually I've just digressed a bit here. So I'm going to come back and finish with this. So I'm going to pop this back onto the mannequin, and then I'm going to carry on. So the shawl's back on the mannequin, and the next thing I've got to show you is socks. And I've got 3 pairs that I've made this year. And the first pair that I've got to show you are these ones, and they are my size, and they're my tippy toes toe up sock pattern. So you start at the toe, you knit the foot, and you've got a German short row heel. And then basically I think these ones were 60 rows in the leg and 20 rows for the cuff, and I just changed it from a single rib to a double rib and did my stretchy cast off at the top. And the yarns that I used for this was, I used Stylecraft Head Over Heels in the colour Bondi Beach, and that was from their Colours of the World range. And I mixed in with it some solid stripes, so they're partly scrappy, partly stripy. And you can see, if you look at the mustard, this bit here is part of the actual Head Over Heels multicolour design. But the pink, the purple, the bright pink, the white here, and the lavender, and this blue and the pale green, they were all West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply yarn. And I just mixed and matched. And I wanted to do these because I wanted to experiment with a few different ways of joining in different colours. So I tried the Weave and Steven method and a few others just to see what I like best. And I have to be honest, I think that I will still go back to sewing my ends in, because that's just a way that I like doing it. But I will pop a video together with the alternative ways that I used as well, so that you can see some of the different ways that I tried and make your own conclusion on what's best for you. So I'm really pleased with them. They're really fun, and everyone wanted a pair in my family. I couldn't believe it. Even my husband, my daughter, my son-in-law, my stepson, everyone was saying, oh, I love these. So that's my first pair of sort of scrappy socks. So I think scrappy socks will be something that continue in the future amongst everything else for me. So that was pair number 1. So then pair number 2, they were for my husband. And I have rewritten the pattern now for tippy toes, toe up socks for men. So that's on Ravelry as well, with the ladies version, and I've written that from a men's size 7 up to a size 13, but you can play around with it as well. You can adjust the width of the sock and the length of the sock. And when I say the sizes, a size 7 to a size 13 is a UK men's 7 to 13, and if you're using Euro sizes, I'll write the Euro sizes down at the bottom, but I have got them for the Euro sizes as well as the UK ones. But again, this was Stylecraft Head Over Heels. I love this. It's funny, when I looked at it on the ball of yarn, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be okay. But as I started knitting it up, I just kept seeing a sunset. Which one is it? There's one of them. If I hold it that way, I think it's that way up, I just keep seeing sea and sunset, and I just really, really love them. And I've got to say, my husband wears my knitted socks now all the time, so he is knitting sock worthy, and I've made him about 6 pairs. So I will be making more men's socks because he is a very grateful recipient of them. And I have to say, he's been very patient, because I made these for him quite a few weeks back. And he said, oh, am I going to have my socks? And it's like, no, you've got to wait till I've put them on a YouTube video. So he's finally going to get his socks and can wear them tomorrow. So that's pair number 2. And then finally, pair number 3 are these ones. They're still on the blockers just because I left them on the blockers. And I'll just take them off, actually. I'll take one off. Now, the thing with sock blockers, you don't necessarily need to use sock blockers. I just use them because they make my socks go into a nice shape, especially when I'm gifting them. I think they look really nice and set, but I only ever put them on the blockers once, and then after that I just wash them and then just hang them on a little airing peg. And I just do it, as I say, to get the shape in a nice shape. But you really don't have to. So if you haven't got sock blockers, you don't have to think, oh, I can't make socks because I haven't got them. You can just wash them and just pat them into shape and let them dry. But this yarn I thought was really, really pretty. And that is Opal. And the colour is called Kim. And it's from their, is it Shafpate range? Is that how you explain it? All these names. Let me just have a look in my notes, because again I wrote that down. Yes, Opal Shafpate in the colour Kim. Now, I was really pleased with that, and again they are my tippy toes socks. And they start at the toe, and then you can even just see very carefully the little line of the blue where I've got the German short row heel. And with these ones I worked 56 rounds for the leg and 16 rounds of single rib with a stretchy cast off for the cuff. So that's pair number 3. So that's my socks made. I have got another pair that I'm halfway through making at the moment, so I'm going to show you those in a minute as well. So moving on from socks, I've got my crochet mojo back. Now, it's funny because a couple of years ago, I made a blanket, and it was a king cole pattern. and it was by Coastal Crochet, and it was called Postcards with Love, and it's a very beautiful, beautiful blanket, but it was a big blanket, and I don't know why. I just moved away from crochet a little bit. I started noticing that I was reaching out to do knitting more than crochet, and I made a couple of baby blankets, crochet baby blankets for my grandson, but I was still reaching for my knitting rather than my crochet. But all of a sudden I've got my crochet mojo back, and yeah, I'm loving it. So the first thing I can't show you because it's gone. So here is a photo, and here's some videos of my little grandson wearing his baby granny go round cardigan, and as his granny I felt very lucky and precious making it for him. Now the pattern is by Iron Lamb. I bought the pattern on Ravelry, but she also has her own website as well as Ravelry, and I loved it. It really, really ignited my crochet love again, and it was well written, it was quick to make, and I made it using this yarn, which is Stylecraft Wondersoft Merry-Go-Round in the dark rainbow. It was lovely to use. I have used this yarn before. I actually used this yarn on a crochet rainbow baby blanket that I made for him a couple of years ago in the bright rainbow, but this is the dark rainbow, and you can see how it's crocheted up. However, I loved making it so much that I've started making another one already. So this is my next one, and I started that just the night before last, and I've got lots of lovely ends to darn in, I know, but I don't mind because it's just so lovely. And I'm going to do the neckband and the front band and the bottom ribbing in the blue. So again, this was Iron Lamb. I bought that off of Ravelry, and that is the baby granny go round cardigan as well, and I want to make myself one now. I want to make everyone one. I just love doing it. So the yarns for this, I've used good old Stylecraft Special DK because the range of colours is just immense and wonderful. And I got my yarns from a shop fairly local to me that I can get to quite easily, and that is a lovely craft shop called Lilyboo in Lost Withiel in Cornwall in the UK. So that is what I'm going to be working on tonight as well. Oh, I'm just going to go and get it because I have got another crochet cardigan that is a work in progress, but I abandoned it to make these, and I just love them. So bear with me a second. So I'm back again, and this is another Iron Lamb pattern, and my dog's on the move now, so he's getting fidgety. So if you hear some noises, it's just him. And this is a top-down cardigan, and this one is her lowrider cardigan, and her version of this pattern is in green. And basically, if I just hold it against me here, it's got long sleeves, it's got a raglan sleeve, it's all granny treble stitch, it comes down to the waist, and then just above the waist it's got a panel of granny squares going all the way around it. So it's a really, really nice cardigan. I really like the look of it, and I haven't decided yet whether I'm just going to do ordinary granny squares around the waistline or whether I'm going to put flower granny squares in. So I've got some yarn, and I think what I'll do is I will make an ordinary granny square to start with, so I've got that as my template for size, and then I might have a look at making a flower granny square, but I've got that original one to sort of lay my new ones on top of to check that I've got them the correct size. Now this is just a stash buster. I'm going to be honest, this is yarn that has been sitting in my cupboards for a couple of years, and I suddenly had the yearning to crochet, bought the pattern off Ravelry, grabbed some yarn out of my stash, which is in that calyx behind me here, and this is what I'm making. And for this I'm using some Stylecraft, fallen down, Starcraft Highland Heathers. So that will be appearing on my Instagram as well, and you will see this at a future date as a finished project on here as well. So that is my crochet projects all done. And then the other thing that I have got to finish, and I have got to finish because I want to wear it and it's beautiful. Well, I think it's beautiful. And that is my second Kynance Cove. Now I can show you the shawl now in all its beauty, and it's not even blocked. So you can see that you've got these sort of layers of waves. So the yarn has been used really cleverly here. So we've got the sea in the pale blue, and then in the wave sections, if I hold it up close, you can see that the creamy yarn, it's almost sort of mother of pearl oystery colours, and it seems to reflect the light, and then the gorgeous colour and texture of the blues and the sort of slight greens, the sea colours in the contrast colour to make the waves. And I just think it's absolutely stunning. And that's why when I was making this one, I kept looking at the pattern and seeing this on the cover, and I was thinking, I just want this. I just really, really want to have this. So shame on me. All I've got to do is finish the last panel of waves, and that is it. So I need to give myself a talking to and sit down for a few nights and get this finished, because A, I want to wear it, and B, I just want to have it as a finished object as well. So I just need to do this last panel, and then there's an I called finish. Can you hear someone? He's settled down again now. He's been having a little wander around here. So anyway, this kit came from Stitches and Cream. Again, this is where I bought it. It was a present for my husband, but I'm being honest, I went there and just bought it and chose it, and then he gave me the money for it, and that was my Twixmas cast on. And in my over enthusiasm, I thought I was going to cast this on at Christmas and also the Stephen West shawl and do them at the same time. So that didn't happen, did it? So the Stephen West shawl is going on hold till autumn, and I just want to get this finished so that I can then carry on with my other things. So the yarn for this was 3 skeins of blue fern yarn, and as I say, that came as a kit from Stitches and Cream. So that is my finished objects and my works in progress. So I've just got to show you a few things that I'm going to be doing over the summer and this year. Now the first thing is actually a skein of yarn, and that is what it is at the moment. And I've got 2 of these, and this is Frangipani Ganzi yarn, and it's a traditional 5-ply, and it's pure wool. And again, I got this from Stitches and Cream because I couldn't get it directly from Frangipani. I don't think they do it directly. I think you go through a shop to buy it from, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And I will say, I'm not sponsored by anyone on this. This is all things that I have genuinely chosen to do and chosen to make and bought with my own money. So I am like a free spirit. I make what I want. So the story behind this is that many years ago, it goes back to, I think it was about 2013, 2014. I went on a fantastic trip with the Knitting and Crochet Guild when I lived in Bedfordshire, and we went up to Sheringham in Norfolk, and it was really bleak. It was the first week in January. It was so cold. The sea was brown, but we'd all gone up there, and we took over a youth hostel, and we went to the Sheringham Museum because the Ganzi exhibition was travelling around the UK, and we were lucky enough to go and have a guided talk by a curator and a expert knitter that had done a lot of ganzes as well, and I think it was Rita Taylor. And I got totally drawn in, totally fascinated about the ganzes. And then when we came out, there was a wool shop up there, and I bought some Wendy Gansey yarn. And I don't know whether my yarn was very old, but it was navy blue. I was going to knit a Gansey for my husband. It was going to be fantastic. And circular knitting needles weren't that new, so I probably didn't have the right ones. And to be quite honest, I got that far into knitting a navy blue men's Gansey and I gave up. But it stayed in my head ever since. And I have a lovely friend called Katie. I haven't seen her for years, but she's just one of those people that she will always in my heart be a friend. And we were both there together, and we both said about making ganzes. And I bought the books. There wasn't that much on the internet at the time, although the internet was there. Things were still very much in book form. So I've got some footage here. I'll show you the books. I've got everything. I was so enthusiastic to make this Gansey. And then I realised that it had failed. And in the end, I did destash the yarn a few years ago. However, Stitches and Cream have an online community called The Flock, and I belong to that. And she had an idea which she's brought into fruition, which was to do a knit along to make a Gansey. And not only just to make a Gansey, but to design your own Gansey, to put your own elements into it. So we'll all be making our Ganseys, but they're all going to probably be quite different because we're all choosing our own base pattern, and then we're all putting in our own different stitch patterns and different styles at the bottom and the necks and things like that. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be popping photos and videos on my Instagram account as I go throughout the year, and I'm going to be talking about it on here with my progress, and I'm really excited about it. So although this looks like just a skein of yarn, well, it's not a skein of yarn, it's a cone of yarn, isn't it? Although it looks like a cone of yarn at the moment, and I have two, I'm hoping that this is actually going to fulfill one of my knitting ambitions. So I'm going to keep you in the loop with how I go with this. So that's one thing. And then secondly, the other thing is actually a book. And again, I'm not sponsored. I bought this with my own money, and I wanted some of the Iron Lamb patterns, and the ones that I wanted were in a book. So there was a few. I want to make the summer top here. I like the V-neck jumper, and there's a folk blouse as well. And I'm just going to say about the folk blouse, because I'm just going to put a quick picture up so that you can just see it there. Okay, so last year I was teaching a sewing workshop actually, and one of the lovely ladies that came along on the sewing workshop was wearing that folk blouse, and it looks so nice, so nice that stuck with me. And I've looked at this a few times on Ravelry, so I have bitten the bullet, bought the book. I've actually ordered the yarn to make the folk blouse and this one as well, so you know they're going to be appearing. There'll also be more socks, because I gave a little pledge to myself this year that I didn't want to try and make a silly amount of socks, but I'd like to try and make 12 pairs of socks this year, because in my family I can count on my fingers. There's my husband, there's my daughter, there's my future son-in-law, there's one of my stepsons wants them, there's, I haven't asked, but his partner, I'm going to ask her as well. My son wears my socks, my daughter-in-law's got some welly bobs and wants some socks, and of course there's my little grandson as well. So all in all, if I just make everyone one pair of socks without me and without anything else, oh, and my sister, So that's 9. So I thought, well, okay, if I say to myself, make 12 pairs of socks and you're just averaging 1 a month, socks are a really good project to take out and about with you, because I can literally knit these without looking and I don't have to think about it. So they are projects that I can just put as and when into the mix. So I think that is pretty much it. I would like to say goodbye from myself and my dog, who's been very good, having a snooze most of the time, but he has now gone underneath my desk, so we can't see him for now, but perhaps I'll post a picture and get him in the picture at the end as well. But for now, I'll say thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me babbling on about everything that I've made and what I'm up to and what I'm doing. And I'm really glad that I've got this video done and out. And I love making my videos and posting on Instagram, because for me, it's like a scrapbook, and I enjoy seeing what everybody's making, what everyone's doing, and I just get so much inspiration from it all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and have a cup of tea, because I've been sipping from my little juice bottle here, which, as you can see, has got a little sheep on it. But I'm going to go and get a proper cup of tea. I might have a little cake, and then I'm going to clear up, and then I'm going to carry on crocheting. So for now, take care, happy knitting and happy crocheting, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Bye!